Welcome back. Today's video is going to talk about whether you should give your children an allowance or not. My wife and I went through this. We thought a lot about it. We talked a lot about it. As my boys got older, they started walking. They started doing more things around the house. Should we give them an allowance? If so, how much should we give them? When should we start giving them the allowance? All these questions were brought up. My wife and I were raised very differently. My parents immigrated to Canada and moved to a small town in BC. We grew up on a farm 20 or 30 minutes away from this small town, up a dirt road on the side of a mountain, away from basically civilization, literally in the middle of nowhere. Whereas my wife grew up in Calgary, a big city, lots of people, lots of stores, lots of places to spend money. I did not get an allowance. Everything on the farm was expected to be done. The parents weren't getting paid to keep the household together. The expectations of the children were no differently. This is a common sentiment as well among people. My wife, however, her parents did something very different. Generally, money's given as a lump sum, either weekly or monthly, and sometimes it's tied to age. I read a lot of people giving $10 when their children are 10 years old and $11 when they're 11 years old, etc. Some people just give a round number, $5 a week, $10 a week, $20 a month, something like that. But what my wife's parents did was, as my wife started getting closer to becoming a teenager, they had her create an annual budget. She needed to write down what she thought she was going to spend on clothing, food, transportation, all those different things. And I thought this was a fantastic idea. What a great way to get children thinking about budgets and money and saving and all that sort of stuff. We thought about doing that with our boys. We joked that our boys care so little about clothing that the entire clothing budget would probably just get spent on Lego and jelly beans anyway, so it probably wouldn't work on them. So after reading a lot of books and articles on the internet about this topic, it was clear that having an allowance is really important for children to learn about those skills early, the budgeting, the spending, the giving skills. I also learned that it's better to have the allowance set for financial learning purposes rather than being tied to chores. Some people will argue that it's a great way to show that the harder you work, the more money you can make. I witnessed firsthand how this falls apart though. We were at a friend's place and the mother asked the child to clear out the dishwasher and the child refused. And so the mother said, well, then you don't get your allowance. And the kid said, I don't care, I don't want the money anyway. So you really need, if you're going to use this method, you really need to have a plan for what actions you're going to take when that scenario arises. A better way to teach that working hard can pay off is to give money for something outside of the regular chores. For example, if you want some wood chopped, or there's a truck full of topsoil that needs to be wheelbarrowed to the backyard or something like that, you could give the child an hourly wage or $20 to do something like that. That allows them to get this sense of the harder I work, the more money I could actually make. So what did we decide to do here at our household? We started the boys off when they were 5 years old with $2 a week. They now get $4 per week. It's not a lot of money, but that is not the point of what we're trying to do. The point was to develop some good money habits. So we had them break up their $4 into 3 containers, similar to what you see on the screen beside me. $2 goes into their spending account, $1.50 into their savings bucket, and then 50 cents goes into their giving bucket. This allowed them to get better with money. They could trade 4 quarters for a loonie, 2 loonies for a toonie, and so on. So they started getting a sense of what the valuation of all these coins were. And then once a month, what they would do, they would take whatever they had in their savings bucket, and I'd go to my computer and they would transfer money from my account into their bank account. So they started developing some online banking skills. As they got older, we did eliminate 2 of the buckets. They only have their giving container now. The other 2 buckets. On allowance day, they now just go to the computer and e-transfer the money from my account into their account. And if they want some spending money, we will give them cash rather than having that e-transferred into their account. And now what we do is at the end of the year, they take whatever they have in their savings account and they can invest it. So they have their own investment account. They've been investing since they're about 7 years old. They don't have a lot in there, but that's again not the purpose of it all. They buy their own ETFs, they've built their own portfolio, and they're confident with making these purchases. They've already experienced some ups and downs with the market, and they know they could lose money, but if they stay invested, it'll always bounce back. I'm confident that when they do get their own jobs and their own careers, they'll be able to do this stuff on their own. When the boys do want to make a large purchase, let's say a $40 Lego set or something like that, we always have them think about it for 48 hours. So this gives them time to think about whether this purchase is actually worth it. $40 means saving for 20 weeks. Is it worth it? Is this Lego set worth saving up for that amount of time? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And when they were young, they were impulsive and they always said yes. But this has really started paying off. Especially my eldest, he's really starting to think about whether this is going to work for his benefit. He's made some bad purchases over time, and those were great lessons. It's hard. You're going to find them wasting their money, but it is really important that they learn from that. Talk to them and have them realize what they could have done differently. And it's been hard, but it's been a great learning experience. So that's what we do here at our household. Everyone's going to come up with a different plan. I do believe that it's really important to have a plan. Start that allowance and get your children started thinking about finances early. And if you've liked this video, please subscribe below. And as always, have a wonderful day.